All right, hello everyone, and welcome to A Link to the Past Randomizer Invitational League Season 4. We've got a nice co-op match coming up between the Titans Mitts and Sphere-finity. I'm Esmar, and with me on the mic is Coravane. Coravane, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. Super excited about this race. It's guaranteed to be a good one.
Yeah, all of these players are pretty heavy hitters. As we all know Dante from Go Mode Podcast. And Relkin is going to be his teammate. On the other side, we've got GFE and P-Train representing Sphere-finity.
Indeed, this is the second match between these two teams. It's Mitts taking the first game and earning that first 3 points in the league.
So they are 1-1 on the series right now. So getting this started, 2 of them in Link's house, 2 of them in Sanctuary. Nothing exciting so far, but we're just getting started.
Yeah, I expect stuff to come fast at us here shortly. As soon as they start checking a few locations, it'll be tough to keep up with, I think.
Yeah, we see GFE taking the whirlpool out of Link's house. I'm assuming setting up for the Houlihan over here by the drop-down.
Yep, got a quick map check on Relkin's side, and I missed a lot of it. I did see a lot of crystals in the light world, I believe.
It looks like GFE missed the Houlihan there. Pays a visit to the ferry. Leaves without even saying hello.
Rude. On P-Train's side, we are getting a check. Dante doing the same, finding only 10 bombs on Lumberjack Ledge. I'm sure our runners aren't sad to see that.
Yeah, we would like some bombs during this early game here, preferably before we hit pack. But yeah, those 10 bombs, they're not something you're generally going to miss.
Yep, a little bit out of the way for those. We do get our first real important item out of Dante's side, finding the mitts, or the gloves, I should say.
I did the same thing in the last race. I commented, I called it the mitts when it was actually the gloves, and in fact, it was in the exact same location. Fourth drop down. Yeah, but as we can see, we've got a little bit of a divide and conquer going on here. We do see both Relkin and Dante in the village right now, doubling up a little bit there. But this is sort of the place to go for early game checks.
Yeah, with so many checks here, it does make sense. Try and divide and conquer this one location to get all those items as quick as possible.
And if you sort of combine it the way that they're doing it right now, you know, one person gets the top half, one person gets the bottom half, and so then you can sort of clean up whatever's important in the other half. Or if it's completely empty, then you each sort of save half the time on pack.
Blind's Hut coming up strong, having the Moon Pearl on P-Train's side. That's going to be an important find for all the runners.
Yeah, one item from Dark World access. And there's the other one in the back of Well. Relkin finds the hammer. So that's actually full Dark World access under 3 minutes in.
Yeah, super fast. Also found the bow in the Well. So the Well coming up super strong today.
Yeah, seeing that bow, I'm assuming that both teams are probably going to send one person over to the Eastern Palace area and give that a dip. There's not a lot of point in putting it off at this point.
Absolutely, and runners of this caliber, of course, having no problem with the dark rooms, so Eastern being a full clearable dungeon at this point for them.
Yeah, one possibility would be maybe holding off until you can get the mirror and do pod as well. But even without the mirror, doing pod right after Eastern, you know, just going down a screen and taking the portal there is not too bad either.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's any divergence there between the two teams on how they decide they want to route this.
Yeah, it really depends what shows up on South Shore, which is going to kind of be the next order of business.
Both the teams finishing up with the Kakariko checks. Dante indeed headed down south. Looks like, nope. Looks like he's taking it straight to the Dark World.
Yeah, it also looks, at it, less than 5 minutes in, but Titan's Myths are a little bit further ahead, seconds ahead, a nose ahead coming out of the CAC checks.
Do get a map check on Dante's side. We see that the Misery Mire and Swamp Palace holding pendants, I believe.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
And both red crystals also finding themselves in the Dark World.
Interesting find in the back of Escape. Petran pulls the second bow.
Ooh, very early silvers. Our runners are certainly going to be happy to see that. Hype Cave, meanwhile, coming up pretty empty. Not a very hype cave at all.
Yeah, that happens often enough that I'm convinced that it used to be a little bit different on an older algorithm. Algorithms changed, and it's not so hype anymore.
The cave, formerly known as Hype.
There's the book in the front of the dam. We get our first bottle, meanwhile, from Stumpy.
Interesting finds there. The book coming up early is always rather interesting. Leads them to desert, maybe, but without a fire source yet, they can't clear it.
Yeah, and it's possible that they could be hardlocked from any real checks in there without the boots.
Risky play. Go over to desert and risk not being able to have anything, or go towards the east. Relkin deciding east is better.
Yeah, and so we're also seeing some sort of strategy divergence in the routing here. The first member from Sphere-finity to go into the Dark World is GFE, taking the warp north of Kakariko and going straight into Skull Woods. Meanwhile, Dante took the Hype Cave route. So we're going to be seeing some new early Dark World checks over there.
Yeah, a little divergence on the Light World as well, as Relkin goes for the South Shore, but P-Train decides to clear out the front of Escape.
It looks like Sphere-finity's making the right call here. They have found both bows and both gloves now at this point. The myths show up in Skull Woods there.
Yeah, Relkin making his own find, though, finding the hookshot in Mini Moldorm Cave. Also an important find.
This is a very, very generous early game seed. Lots of really good items before the 10-minute mark. No boot, no flute. That's definitely, but finding 2 gloves, hammer, hookshot, both bows. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, it looks like it might be a very open second half of the race here if they keep finding stuff at this rate.
Yeah, and that's something that's always really exciting to watch, especially in co-op, because it really tests your ability to figure out, okay, well, what's your optimal routing based on what you find in the end.
It looks like Dante is going to make that aforementioned trip over to Eastern. I would expect this to be a full clear.
I wouldn't expect anything less. This is all dungeons, so it kind of doesn't matter whether it's a pendant or a crystal at this point, especially when you're in this early game and you're also just looking for items. If you've got everything you need to clear Eastern Palace, it may as well go ahead and do it. Boots make it a little faster, but yeah, when you've got to go check Sahasrar's Closet anyway and get those 3 checks, it's really not worth it to put it off.
Absolutely. In all dungeons, any dungeon that can be full cleared is a good dungeon to visit.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that you do have to keep in mind. First of all, you could end up in GT mode where, you require an item to beat a dungeon, but it could actually be in GT. In this case, I don't know that there are any like that. But for example, if you see Pendant TR and Pendant Mire, which in a normal 7/7 is generally fairly welcome, yeah, you're not really thrilled about that, then the game could hide a whole bunch of really good stuff in Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, a little early to tell, but you're always in the back of your mind worrying about what could be hiding in, say, the pedestal or GT, making the end of the race a little more hectic. But we'll see.
Yeah, with this particular pendant layout, I don't think there's really too too much danger there. Because the hook shot you need for swamp, but you also need it for I believe you need it for some other dungeon, right? It's not just swamp, right?
I don't know. I think it helps, but I don't know if it's required. The mirror, I think, is only required for swamp. That could potentially end up in a
Yeah, the
unfortunate
mirror
location. So
the hookshot could be logically locked in or the ice palace could have been logically locked by hookshot. Of course, we have already found the hookshot, so it doesn't really matter. But the flippers are logically required for ice palace, so that can't be locked. Samaria is required for Turtle Rock. So yeah, I don't think that's going to come into play too much in this particular seed.
now the flute is only required for Meyer. Perhaps that could end up there if our runners are unlucky, but
Flute also has the potential of being our logical mountain access, so it's again a little early to be really worrying about that. Meanwhile, what are we looking at for our 5-6? How soon can Pyramid Fairy be in play?
well, we got Thieves Town and Ice Palace. Both are going to require at least, well, Ice Palace is going to require a fire source of some kind, either the rod or bombos to come up.
Yeah, whereas Thieves Town we could conceivably clear right now. Notably, we haven't found a sword. That is relevant, but not necessarily an issue for these guys, I wouldn't think. The hammer will do.
Yeah, that early hammer is a really good offensive weapon and makes up for not having a sword early game. They're definitely going to want it before too long, though.
Yeah, for sure, especially if the fire rod shows up, because then we're just sword away from being able to clear Skull Woods. And there's the flute showing up in the chest game in Village of Outcasts. That's a really great place for it to be if we had the mirror.
Yeah, without the mirror, it's kind of unfortunate, but have to remember to come back to Light World Kakariko when they're done here to activate it.
Yeah, unless the mirror shows up here in Thieves Town.
Always possible. Both teams having checked the water checks, finding not much there. North Dark World, the rest of Skull Woods also coming up mostly empty from our runners.
Yeah, we could go up to the mountain. It's technically it is now in logic since we have found that we know where the flute is, and we see Relkin going up there just now. They haven't found the flute, but they're making the play anyway.
Does make sense. There are a lot of items up here on the mountain for grabs.
Yeah, and we know they're all in logic. Relkin doesn't necessarily know, but even if you go up the mountain out of logic, if you find if the lamp shows up there, then that's a sure sign that the flute was available somewhere else.
Indeed. Dante making a very quick work of that Eastern Palace, already coming out of there with the first pendant of the race.
Yeah, the silver arrows will do that. Ooh, GFE misplaces that bomb.
Always sad when that bomb gets overthrown a little bit. Notice that GFE only cleared out the first few chests in Thieves Town. Not sure if that's just a intentional routing decision or if they decided they're a little low on health to try that safely at the moment. They'll have to go back there eventually.
A little bit of both. If you're going to dip Thieves Town and you only do the front, if you find enough items there, I didn't keep track of exactly how many showed up, but if a good number show up, then it might be worth it to just come back later. Since you know you're going to have to anyway. And it's even possible to, route it in with the flute turn in. Since you know you're going to have to come back to Kakariko at some point anyway. That could be a decent time to come back and do Thieves Town, maybe with a couple more hearts.
Absolutely, and always better to be a little cautious. If you're worried about having the health and getting killed in a dungeon, you will waste more time dying too many times in a dungeon rather than just coming back later when you can full clear it safely.
Yeah, GFE is still notably on 3 hearts and green mail, so I think is there anything in Thieves Town that can one shot from that?
I don't quote me on it, but I don't think so. The little gremlins upstairs do 2 hearts of damage, and they're pretty quick. So there's a lot of things in Thieves Town that do too.
Yeah. It's not hard. Most players would, with a couple of runs under their belt, wouldn't say that Thieves Town is really a sticking point, but it can be deceptively tricky when you've got only a couple hearts.
One of those dungeons that, when it goes bad, can go bad very quickly. Dante making his way through Pod, as we suspected, trying to kind of route in both the Eastern and Pod dungeons at the same time.
Yeah, Dante's got a couple more hearts there, so that's not as spooky as it would have been for, say, GFE.
Yeah, all the runners except for GFE looking, relatively healthy in comparison. GFE just not having gotten a lot of hearts on their route, unfortunately, yet.
And meanwhile, we're seeing Paradox Cave from Relkin. Will it pay out? 2 out of 3 say no. There's another heart. Okay, I'm kind of hoping for GFE's sake that he's the one that goes and checks Paradox Cave, just to get some more hearts on that bar.
Just to even it out a little bit. The mountain in general coming up a little thin right now for Relkin.
Yeah, it's worth noting that hearts are one of those things that in co-op you generally will skip to save time. If somebody finds a heart, and it's essentially nothing as far as your teammate is concerned.
Yeah, if you happen upon them, that's great, but runners of this caliber will rarely go out of their way just to grab some heart pieces.
Yeah, you might consider, certain ones that are going to be on the way. Say you find one in the front of Dam. Yeah, say to your teammate, hey, remember to grab the chest on your way into Swamp later when you're doing it.
Little team high five there as Sphere-finity finds both the runners in the Sanctuary at the same time.
With the third wheel there, of course, you got the Smith.
And Relkin finally finding our first sword of the game in Spiral Cave.
Spiral Cave. It's kind of the newcomer's bane, is that cave is easy to forget to check.
It's just so difficult to route in efficiently, whether you're coming from the bottom of the mountain or the top.
And especially if you find something really exciting in the rest of the mountain, it can slip your mind pretty easily if you're not a little wary. Yeah, but so now we see Sphere-finity activating that flute, so they can actually get around quite quickly. And are probably going to go up the mountain there. Yep, we see P-Train flying up there right now.
Makes sense. Meanwhile, GFE doing the Smith chain, which, if something important comes up here, would be a great find for their team, especially if it's something like the mirror that you typically want to have before you start the Smith chain.
Yeah, both teams are making very good time, but it's really kind of neck and neck until somebody finds something really impactful.
Yeah, early game got flooded with a lot of items, then it dried up a little bit. Relkin finding the lamp, the first fire source, in Tower of Hera, right where they wanted it, actually.
Yeah, and of course it is logically required. Not illogically required, though we do have that hook shot.
Relkin going to put that to use right away, in fact. Oh, an important find over on GFE's side as they find the speedy boots on the sick kid.
That's a nice find. I did notice Relkin went out of his way to go grab the bottle that was in Spec Rock Cave. It's a little bit of a longer check, but it was the first bottle he came across, and it had blue goo in it. So one of the rare circumstances where you'll actually go over there for a bottle.
Yeah, absolutely. In this mode, if you are the first teammate to find a bottle, you definitely don't want to pass that up. Ooh, looks like Relkin getting a little bit turned around there. At first trying the Harapot trick, and then trying to go upstairs without the big key. Remembering you have to make one or the other choice there.
Yeah, it ended up having to take a death to refill the hearts after the first failed Harapot here. Now I know there was a faster bomb setup that was sort of making the rounds a while back. I don't know if that became more common knowledge or how many people have really worked that into their game, but I know this original bomb strat is very old and storied.
Yeah, but this setup has, or there's so many different setups to set up this Haripod. It really is an interesting trick just because of how many different variations you have. Meanwhile, Dante does find a valuable item in Pod, pulling that Cane of Samaria out, which will be very important for our runners late game.
Yeah, Relkin finally gets that Haripop, but that's a lot of time lost to that trick. I mean, I hesitate to say it, but it almost would have been the same speed to just go down and do the basement and get whatever was down there, which I guess is the big deal, we know that. He does find the other item there, though, so it's not in the big chest, which is really all he's hoping for at this point.
GFE finding the Smiths giving powder today. Definitely not the worst thing we've ever gotten from them.
Magic Bat just had a 5 rupee, so the powder wasn't too impactful in the long run, but I would say that Sphere-finity is kind of coming out on the top end of this trade here, because finding a good item in that dungeon, finding the Cane of Samaria in Pod is something that they're going to get to eventually, and most likely before they need it. Whereas Sphere-finity already has those mitts, so they're free to do the Dark Death Mountain checks.
Indeed. Relkin finishing up Tower of Hera gives their team 2 dungeon lead, but that's deceptively not all that matters. As you said, Sphere-finity probably has a better item layout right now, and will catch up rather quickly once they start doing some of those dungeons, I think.
Yeah, for example, P-Train here takes the bomb jump, is going to be able to clear out Light World Death Mountain, and then go right ahead and do Dark Death Mountain, whereas Relkin would have to go back a second time to do that. And finding the right time to do that it introduces a large element of risk.
Absolutely. One of those times when you're hoping that you can coordinate it to where your teammate has what they need when they go up there to do the checks you weren't able to, rather than having to go back yourself.
Yeah, it's one of the things I absolutely just love to death about co-op is there's so many on the spot reroutes and stuff that you have to really do to make it work the most efficient way possible. But and then it just the way that one move can kind of limit your options later on. And Titan's Mitts finding those boots, so hopefully they'll be able to make up some of that time now.
Now, remind me, where did Sphere-finity grab those mitts from?
It was Skullwood, so Relkin's probably about to roll up on those pretty soon.
Ah, good. P-Train pulling off his own Haripot using the boot strat instead.
Yeah, unfortunately that wasn't available to Relkin at the time.
Now, I'll be interested to see here whether or not Relkin goes and clears out Thieves Town.
Yeah, we haven't seen the second half. I would expect it at this point. It's late enough into the seed that it doesn't really make sense to dip Thieves Town. Maybe at 10 minutes in, it's a little more understandable. But at 23 minutes in, there's really no reason to not finish it out, especially when you've got boots. Because boots are the one item that really make this dungeon any faster.
Yeah, boots and hookshot, which our teams have both had now for quite a bit. P-Train, meanwhile, finishing up Moldorm, getting the first crystal for their team.
And now I expect we're going to be seeing some new checks over on P-Train's side. So the screens to watch now are top left and bottom right. P-Train is going to be looking at the Dark Death Mountain checks, as Relkin is most likely, Relkin's going to the back of Thieves Town now. So there are 3 more chests, 3 more checks, really, 4, including the big chest. Still missed the item count on the front, but
Coming up on the first new check we've seen for a minute up on Relkin's screen.
there's another heart piece. Train is going to be giving us a look at Turtle Rock, so which medallion do we need to get in there? If it's Quake, I imagine he's just going to open it up straight away.
Absolutely no reason not to at this point.
And it is Quake. Knowing that the Cane of Samaria is actually in logic, it's possible that there's something shallow in TR in that first check on the left side that it might be necessary for progress. It's a long shot, but it's possible that there's say the fire odds in there.
Oof, that would be quite rough for the seed to throw at, but absolutely possible. P-Train going to give us these Dark Death Mountain checks, 2 here and 4 more over in Hookshot Cave. Relkin finding half magic in the big chest of Thieves Town. Never required, but a great safety to have.
Yeah, it really just loosens up some of the tightness in a lot of parts of any run, really. And it's kind of one of those items that experience doesn't really negate the usefulness of. Is any place where a newer player would love to have the half magic, it just means that the more experienced player no longer has to even think about it.
Yep. Meanwhile, P-Train finding really nothing interesting up in Dark Death Mountain. Full heart container, I think, was the most interesting or valuable thing they found there, unfortunately.
Yeah, the flip side of that, though, of course, is that it was relatively efficient, all things considered, because he was able to do it with combining it with the Light World Death Mountain and the Tower of Hera.
Absolutely, and one of the biggest advantages now is that their teammate GFE is not going to need to go into Dark Death Mountain pretty much at all for any of those checks. They'll be able to go straight into Thieves Town or Turtle Rock when they're able to get up there.
One thing is, I don't think we saw Spike Cave from either side, did we?
We did not. Neither team has a invincibility item.
The cape showed up in it was in where was it? Oh yeah, it was in Thieves Town. So Thieves Town had the cape, and since Thieves Town big is the half magic, that puts that check in logic for all of these runners.
I
mean, and ignoring the fact that we also had access to 2 bottles, which also would have done the same job as the half magic in that scenario.
GFE going to give us some new checks here. Headed over to the Mire area. Going to give us that Mire medallion. And that was super fast, but I believe that was Quake. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Ooh, so that's going to be... So just now we saw the Titan's Myths get the Titan's Myth. They've both gone through Skull Woods and found those. So now they have access to the Mire area finally. So they could, with that Cane of Samaria, at least Dante has it, Relkin still has to go through pod. So they could go straight in and clear that right away. If it is indeed Quake.
I believe it was. I do know for a fact that GFE just found the Fire Rod, though, in the Mire Shed, which is an amazing find. That should, well... I was going to say we'll put Ice Palace in logic, but never mind. Flippers haven't shown up yet.
They could do it though. They'd prefer to have the Cane of Samaria, but Yeah, this is actually kind of interesting because I so whenever so it looks like Dante's probably gonna go and check Darkness Mountain right now, which is a little bit unfortunate. It would have been phenomenal if he had checked Mire area. Could have grabbed the fire rod and done Mire.
Absolutely. One of those things that we know is the wrong call, but it was the logical call. It has more items than the Mire area, more information to be had. Just unfortunate. We know that there's not really anything up here for our runners.
Yeah, and it's a rough thing to have looming over you too, is having that Dark Death Mountain, because you know you were only able to get the first half of the checks, and you also know that those Titan's myths were kind of just free for the taking. And we see GFE actually deciding to get that heart container on the desert pillar. Not strictly required, but he's got to take what he can get.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quick grab when you already have the boots, so not much time lost there to grab it. Runners from both teams, in fact, clearing out the desert, finding not much besides that heart.
And here we see P-Train going over to Eastern Palace area. Well, really the Palace of Darkness area.
Yeah, going to go straight for the Palace of Darkness, it looks like. We know that's going to be a good choice overall. They're going to get their Cane of Samaria. It is going to be a little deep in pod to get it, but they are going to find that before too long.
Yeah, and going pod first here makes a lot of sense because within the 5 checks that are available in Palace of Darkness, it's very reasonable to expect the mirror to show up, and if the mirror doesn't show up, you know, oh well, Eastern isn't that terrible to get to just on its own.
Yeah, one of those things where you're not wasting time by going to pod because it's going to be something they need to do anyway. And if it happens to come up with the mirror, all the better. You can quickly jump over and do the other dungeon. But if not, come back for Eastern later.
I mean, it could even be, you know, at the very end of the seed if it really has to, because Eastern is a pendant. So it's kind of a automatically lower priority in that respect.
GFE, the first one to finish off Desert, getting their second crystal. Well, the first crystal, second dungeon done. All teams now having finished 2.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of a spread too.
Oh, P-Train trying a very difficult hover strat here. Probably one of the more difficult hovers in the game.
I love it. I like seeing it. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to note that, you know, if you could just walk over pits, you could easily just walk through that barrier because it's only got collision on one side.
Yeah, one of the things developers never thought to worry about us players finding a way to go to that barrier from the other side. So why bother with collision?
Sort of the same reason you can usually walk back in bounds if you ever get out of bounds in most 3D games.
And why you can walk backwards through locked doors in some cases. Dante, meanwhile, finishing up his Dark Death Mountain checks, checking the Turtle Rock medallion, getting that information, and headed away.
Relkin, meanwhile, about to pick up the Fire Rod, which is, you know, a little bit frustrating for them, I'm sure, because, well, maybe not necessarily, because technically that is a required double dip of Skull Woods. Because you have to go to Skull Woods in order to get the mitts, which are required to get that Fire Rod, so there's actually no way to clear Skull Woods on the first trip.
Nope, no way around that one. P-Train getting the Canis Samaria there in pod.
Yeah, so we're just about getting up to the point where yeah, Relkin's going and getting that Canis Samaria too. So we're getting to the point where, you know, both teams are really deciding, okay, we've got enough information, we need to kind of equalize our layouts here. Because if you spread out too much for too long, you kind of end up, again, sort of like I mentioned earlier, your options are just way too limited. You can't make the good plays because only one person's got the cane, only one person's got the flute or something.
Absolutely. You often see this this basic layout in these co-op seeds where in the beginning they'll spread out, get as much information as they can, gather a whole bunch of unique items, and then in the middle of the race they'll kind of loop back over each other's checks to make sure they're ready for the next set of dungeon dips.
Yeah, that's sort of a phase 2 of the seed as a whole, which we're kind of approaching. I wouldn't necessarily say the halfway point. We're a little short on dungeon clears for it, but it's coming up. We're coming up on the halfway point, and the halfway point is really what's going to make or break this race. I think we're actually fairly even at this point.
Yeah, I think we are. Dante, meanwhile, is going to dip into Mire.
Yeah, this is the first new thing we've seen. And this makes sense that would be the first new thing, because they have had that cane open for a while. Whenever you see something early, in your mind, or you assume that your opponent got it as early, or if not earlier than you got it. So they need to figure out what's actually in there, because they've had that burning a hole in their pocket for a while.
Absolutely. You also always have in the back of your mind, the earlier you get an item, the more likely it seems to be needed or useful or locking another item that you need.
Yeah, it just opens up the algorithm to freely place items wherever it wants, rather than it slapping itself on the wrist and saying, no, you can't place that there.
P-Train, meanwhile, is going to go down and beat the Helmasaur, which we did not see on Dante's side when he went through pod.
Yeah, I didn't count the items, so if we pay attention to what Helmasaur dropped, we could see if it's a dungeon item, then we know why Dante bailed on it. Yeah, the one thing that has been conspicuously absent is the flippers, I would say.
Indeed, not required for Ice Palace, since all of our runners can fake flipper, but it is going to be required for a swamp, so you're going to have to find them eventually.
Yeah, swamp being kind of a kind of a strange case. It's a pendant dungeon, which means that it's possible that we don't need to get in there until after doing GT, but there's nothing. We do need to find the flippers before GT, and it's possible that the ice rod is in swamp somewhere. Because I think right now ice rod is the only thing we really need in order to enter Ganon's tower. Ultimately.
Looking over the layout.
Oh, the mirror, of course.
Well,
wait, no, we don't need the mirror. That's
the mirror.
That's swamp.
We need the flippers, like you said, and the ice rod, and then logically we could get to GT.
Yeah, the mirror could be in GT. Of course, that would preclude the ice rod being in swamp, but we're going to have to wait and see.
So I saw the mushroom come up in Mire for Dante, but didn't see anything else of importance yet.
Yeah, the big key was vanilla.
still looking for that second item then here in Mire.
Yeah, and since we did see that vanilla big key, I can assume that Dante saw the small key in that first, that top northern Firelock's chest. Because that's sort of one of the only times that you go ahead and do that cutscene chest right away. Because that's a tell that it's the big key.
Indeed, that second item hiding away. It's either in the big chest or on the boss at this point. P-Train, meanwhile, is going to follow in Dante's footsteps, go and clear out Mire as well.
Yeah, and honestly, in a co-op, that's actually not too bad. I mean, it sucks that the big key is in cutscene chest, but it doesn't suck that bad because you know that everybody has to go through that. And knowing that the second item is on the boss, even if it's an important item, it's like, okay, just go to cutscene chest, grab that, and then go straight to the boss. It saves your teammate a lot of time.
Exactly. One of the silver linings of co-op, no matter what, is even if you have to full clear a dungeon, you know that your teammate is not going to have to full clear that same dungeon. It's like Dante was trying to use the spooky action glitch, but must have lost it at some point. Doesn't look like it triggered there.
Yeah, has to use the spooky action way up close rather than spooky action from a distance.
Spooky action up close. I like that.
It's still fairly spooky because the room is dark, you know.
That and, you know, switches. How do they even work, you know?
Okay, so now where are they going to send Relkin here?
That is an excellent question. Ice Palace, maybe?
Yeah, you certainly don't want to go straight into Mire right after. Yep, looks like it's gonna be that Ice Palace.
Yep. I glanced away, however, and looks like Dante has finished up with Vitreous. I did not see the item drop, though. Nothing important popping up on the tracker, so looks like we will have to look elsewhere.
Yeah, one thing that could be interesting is if the mirror shows up here in Ice Palace. The flippers cannot be in here because you're supposed to have them already. But, you know, if the mirror's here, then we got to start wondering where the flippers are. And I would start thinking at this point, you know, maybe they're in TR.
TR would be my next big suspicion as well. You'd be able to go through pretty much the entire dungeon with their current layout. Relkin does find the Master Sword in the first chest of Ice Palace. That's certainly nice to find here.
Yeah, for Ice Palace especially. You know, even the most seasoned players don't love... Oh, there's the mirror. Okay, so...
As you were saying...
Yeah, my guess is... I wonder if they're going to send Dante straight up to TR right now? No.
Gonna go grab that mirror first.
Yeah. The one thing is, it's like, it's hard to... Okay, so that's all 3 items in Ice Palace. Because there was a bottle there. Relkin just picked it up. So actually, that would tell me it's like, okay, grab that mirror, go up to TR. Because now there's no possibility that you're gonna get stuck going up there, and then Relkin finds the ice rod, and it's like, oh no, wait, come back.
Yeah, the big worry there, I guess, would be the time loss from having to walk into Ice Palace twice. But that mirror is early enough that it's probably worth it to try and get that information.
I would say that's worth it too. You know, grab the mirror, grab the second sword. It's gonna be comfortable in the long run. And you also have the option, hey, maybe if the ice rod shows up somewhere nice, you can save that portal and just kind of go right back and not really lose that much time to it. It's a long shot. You don't want to like count on that, but the possibility's open.
No, it actually looks like Dante's going to finish off ice while they're here. They're going back to hit the switch, which I can only assume means that they're going to go all the way through.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, this actually makes just as much sense. Even though they're not really, optimizing their time. Hey, if you can only enter Ice Palace once, just only enter Ice Palace once.
Yeah, they're not optimizing their time as far as like information gathering goes, but they're going to knock out Ice Palace real quick, not have to worry about coming back.
They kind of have all the information they really, really need. Because they know that okay, the only item dense spot that's really left is TR.
Yeah, a couple of overworld locations that the mirror unlocks.
Yeah, and they both want to have the mirror for that, so it may as well pick it up. This was a nice kill on Cold Stare there from Relkin.
That was very clean, especially with Master Sword there.
Yeah, Hammer and Fire Rod there, I think, were the go-to strats.
Indeed. Meanwhile, while we were talking so much about Ice Palace, GFE over there finishing up Skull Woods and beating Mothula, still looking for an item, it looks like.
Yeah, I guess we didn't find both items in Skull Woods. Yeah, I misspoke. There's the 50 rupees in the back. You see, I think Relkin is going up to hunt down that second item in Skull Woods and finish that off.
Interesting that they would prioritize this over TR, but it does make sense if they're trying to route in TR straight to GT.
You'd love to get the Ice Rod before you really commit to TR. If there's something you can do first, the first person out of Ice Palace there is going to want to do something other than go to TR. In case they can find the Ice Rod first, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the risk here is that, they end up in the situation where, okay, yeah, the logic is Flippers in GT, or not GT, Flippers in Turtle Rock, and then the Ice Rod's in Swamp Palace. And so then they end up kind of having to double up over each other no matter what for quite a long time. And the longer you do that in a co-op, the more lost time it kind of pans out to in the end.
Yeah, whenever possible, you always want to keep your teammate separate from you as far as a routing or logic finding endeavor, because if you're both walking the same path kind of linearly, it's like there's only one person playing against two, and that's bad odds.
Yeah, so we see Dante going and cleaning up those overworld mirror checks that you talked about earlier. If this pans out and the Ice Rod shows up in one of them, that's pretty great for them. But if it doesn't, then it's looking like they're going to have to go to TR together.
Yeah, the upside is that they know that the Flippers can't be in any of those mirror locked locations, so just slightly more likely that they would hold the Ice Rod if they're going to hold progression. But yeah, as you said, this is going to time out to where both of them are going to be headed up to TR about the same time. That mirror is still a huge advantage that they have over Sphere-finity at this point, but I would expect Sphere-finity to send someone to Ice Palace very shortly as well.
Yeah, P-Train just finishing up Eastern Palace is done with basically this half of the map. Is going to actually with that, ooh, that's interesting. We haven't seen this check yet.
We have not. We both forgot that Misery Mire was the green pendant. P-Train going to see if Saha has him.
Oh boy,
just some walking sticks today.
Yeah, for a second, the stream compression made it look like it was an arrow with a little AG next to it, and I got like nostalgia feels.
Ye olden days of silvers.
I actually kind of missed that. I think that icon was genius.
Worth noting, there are indeed some overworld locations that I don't think we've seen yet. We haven't seen Catfish from either of our runners. Pyramid Fairy is also in Logic now. Well, not in Logic, but could have the Ice Rod.
And Spy Cave isn't the worst place either, because it's pretty reasonable to go and check that before going into TR, just to make sure you don't go into TR without it if you could have avoided it. But yeah, it looks like Relkin's biting the bullet going into TR. This isn't too bad, because I think, again, as you mentioned, there's some stuff that Dante could still do to avoid, doubling up on this. So now it's looking like the best case scenario for Titan's Mitts now is they find the Ice Rod in TR and the Flippers not in TR. Worst case scenario, Flippers in TR, Ice Rod behind Flippers.
Absolutely, yes. Worst case scenario is that Dante, after Relkin is already almost all the way through TR, finds the Ice Rod somewhere like Graveyard Ledge or something, where Relkin's going to have to come out, not be able to save their portal, and have to go back through the entire TR again.
Yeah. Ooh, it looks like Dante's gonna finish off Pod. I mean, I guess this makes sense just to, not double up your time, but they're kind of retreading. Oh no, never mind. They're turning in the pendant. Because they don't know that it's just some arrows.
Oh, wow.
There it is. Okay, cool.
Relkin finding both of the aforementioned items in TR.
Yeah, again, it seems crazy, but that's actually not a huge surprise at this point. Because you've seen enough seeds, you see it all the time. It's like that it's at this point, it's kind of just okay. They're all just within TR plus Swamp Palace. That's just most likely. Overworld check is actually kind of unlikely at this point. So it's almost not surprising to see them both show up in a single check-heavy dungeon. Right next to each other, of course, is not what you'd expect, but...
Indeed, almost cliche at this point how often TR has Ice Rod, it seems. But regardless, unless I'm missing something on the tracker, that is go mode for Relkin.
Yeah, I think so.
And Dante, having been finishing up a couple dungeons down there, also in very good position to soon head up the mountain and grab their go mode items as well.
Yeah, so that was kind of it kind of bailed them out there. It was looking pretty dicey. If Ice Rod didn't show up in TR, this play was going to really be bleeding some time. But all of a sudden that's off the table and they're in go mode.
Yep, that's rando. High risk, high reward sometimes.
Yeah, it is kind of worth noting here that that Dante is trailing behind in dungeons a little bit. Has to clear again. They're all kind of quick dungeons. The ones that he hasn't done, Thieves Town, Skull Woods. He's almost done with Pod. So they have kept it relatively close. Meanwhile, it looks like GFE and P-Train are have a little more parity with each other. But they're only just now getting to Ice Palace, and it looks like they're doing it together.
Actually, P-Train just finished Ice Palace and has the information already. Meanwhile, Relkin is going to have to go through and finish Misery Mire, which is about as long as it's going to take to do Thieves Town. So I don't think they're quite as far apart as it seems at this point because of the number of dungeons that they have to do, but they're going to start knocking out these dungeons pretty quick.
Yeah, it is. I wonder if Relkin's really just going to go into... I guess he is just going to go into GT. But he's going to have to do all 3 pendants.
Still probably a better than the alternative of having to climb the mountain again.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
That's one of the things that I think is really refreshing about all dungeons in these race formats is you get so used to Ganon's Tower being the end game, but oftentimes in all dungeons it's really not. It's really kind of just the beginning of the mid or the end of the mid game, I suppose.
Absolutely, and it does clear up your mind a little bit. In regular modes, you're always worried about dipping into pendants when you don't have to. In all dungeons, well, you don't have to worry about that. You're going to have to go in there anyway.
Here's a question: does P-Train find another sword in here? No, he doesn't.
He finds a heart.
Is that could be a little bit of an equalizer if they find a sword somewhere that Relkin and Dante don't get to.
Yeah, silvers are always great for the Ganon fight, make it a whole lot simpler, especially that fourth phase. But Master Sword Ganon is never something to take lightly.
Yeah,
so
a tempered sword could really switch this up. Again, the possibility that one shows up in the basement is also pretty high.
Yeah, it could definitely even it out a little bit. Sphere-finity really is going to need to make their way up to TR quick, fast, and in a hurry if they want to keep this neck and neck.
It looks like P-Train's doing a whole lot of overworld checking. Again, yeah, I don't know how soon they're going to get up to Turtle Rock, because it seems they really don't want to go up there without the ice rod if they can avoid it.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what we were talking about. We expected Titan's Miss to do was to send the first teammate through ice to do some overworld checks. But we know, we unfortunately know now that was the wrong choice.
Ooh, nice kern jump there from P-Train. Tossing the bomb to knock yourself into the screen transition right as you land in the water.
Love to see it.
Fake flippers.
Meanwhile, that was a incredibly clean Trinex fight from Relkin, using some behind the hammer strats there.
Okay, so there is the tempered sword on Catfish. I love that little dude, but that's a long check for that. It's gonna be a hard sell to get GFE to pick that up.
Yeah, but it's something that Titan's Mitts is not going to pick up at all.
Yeah. The problem is if the fourth sword does show up, then it's kind of moot, because having a fourth sword upgrade isn't nearly as impactful as having a third one.
Absolutely true. It'll be interesting to see how much Relkin does of GT. Do they continue doing any checks after they find the big key in the hopes of helping out their teammate later on? Or do they just say, you know what? I've got blue mail, I've got fair amount of hearts, I've got Master Sword, we can do this.
Yeah, I would think you just full clear it. There's not really that much you're hoping for at this point, other than maybe a tempered sword shows up. But if you're in go mode, how far do you really want to reach for a tempered sword if you've got silvers? It's not that attractive. Maybe if you didn't have the silvers, you'd want to find at least another arrow upgrade or another sword. But if you've got one of them, it's like, do you really want to give up go mode for that?
I would absolutely agree.
One thing we didn't mention is Relican is in GT, and we didn't really properly introduce our little guessing game that we love to play.
Oh, we did not, and we are behind as is.
In our defense, we're 57 minutes into the speed. This is a pretty speedy GT entry.
Well, we're at check number 7 now, so feel free to throw out some guesses in chat.
It is kind of worth noting that within all of this, GFE and P-Train are kind of finishing off the rest of the game. Relkin may be in GT right now, but it has to do all of the pendant dungeons, whereas GFE and P-Train are really only going to have to do Swamp, it looks like.
Yeah, I don't think they're as far ahead as it seems. Having a player in GT super early and ahead of the other team does make it feel like that team's way ahead. But I don't think it's quite as far apart as it seems at this point. Sphere-finity definitely needs to get up to GT, needs to grab their mirror and their ice rod, but they are going to have less dungeons to complete after they do get go mode.
Yeah, thinking about this, even if you figured that, okay, well, it's probably going to be, well, we need to go to TR to get what we need, and knowing that you probably also are figuring, okay, you're gonna have to come back down. You may as well try to find either the flippers or the ice rod anywhere you can before going up, in order to, it's like, okay, well, worst case scenario, we only have to do swamp afterwards.
Yeah, and it's a pretty hard sell to try and say, oh, they're both going to be both the items we need that are going to be in TR. That's a hard thing.
Yeah,
You could expect one to be in there, but both is a hard sell.
yeah, and even in the scenario where it's okay, you've got flippers in TR and then ice rods in swamp. Again, since that's a hard lock, everybody's gonna have to deal with that. So it doesn't really matter how soon you find out that that's what you have to do.
Absolutely. By the way, Relkin does manage to find the big key, and if my counting was correct, I believe that was number 17. So, GG's to anybody in chat that managed to guess 17. I didn't see anyone there. I saw an 18, so close, but not close enough. And as we suspected, Relkin heading straight up the tower, not bothering to do any additional checks to try and find that sword, which is the only thing they could possibly need at this point.
Yeah, and now we're gonna see where Sphere-finity is at when Dante finishes TR here. Neither of them are in TR yet, so obviously none of them are going to be ahead. But Dante has all of the dungeons complete that Sphere-finity is going to have here. So they're both going to be, behind in that regard. Relkin, it's a little harder to say because, it's got the 2 extra dungeons to do afterwards, but given that the dungeon clears are in this sort of the same position for the other 3 runners, it's going to be, that's when we're really going to see, well, what kind of lead the Titans Mitts it kind of has to work with here.
Yeah, that Misery Mire clear will take the most time. Eastern Palace pretty quick, but not much you can do to speed it up at this point. So Dante, I would say, is probably in the lead, probably going to be the first one to finish unless something changes. But what matters is the average team time. If Sphere-finity can get both of their runners through and finish close to each other, it might be a closer average than Dante finishing super early and Relkin taking too much time to finish up their last dungeon. So hard to say at this point.
Yeah. P-Train might be able to catch up a little bit with that sword advantage. But the one thing that kind of worries me a little bit for Sphere-finity is the key was a little bit on the deeper side, which means that if they're both in together, it's going to kind of be hard for them both to find it in a timely manner.
Absolutely. I would expect if they both hit GT at close to the same time, they're going to split up their runners, one going full right, one going full left or close to it. But we know that big key is pretty far to the left side, almost as far as it could be. So it's going to take the same amount of time regardless on how they try and split up GT.
Meanwhile, Relkin on the final real room of Ganon's tower here.
Yep, worth noting, we haven't mentioned it, of course, because all of our runners are going to have to do it, but they do have to complete Aga 1, the castle tower, as well. That does count as one of the dungeons in all dungeons modes.
Oh man, that's just a simply good pattern.
Real geometry test going on here. Nothing lining up straight.
That was a nice double there. That would have been a triple if it weren't for the blue balls.
And Aga 2 is down on Relkin's side as GFE and P-Train both are in TR, and P-Train has found out that they are in go mode in here.
Yeah, you know, nothing really tickles me like a really well executed Aga 2. It's one of my favorite things to see in this game. It's just a thing of beauty when you see somebody just line up those shots. All right, Relkin has defeated the wizard, but does have a little bit of work to do.
It looks like they're going to go and beat Aga 1 first before they finish up their pendant dungeons.
Yeah, I think that's wise because that lets you just save and quit after finishing your last pendant, as long as you make it anything other than desert, and then you just end up right in front of the Ganon fight.
Oh, an excellent point that I didn't think about that. But yeah, once you've beaten Aga 1 and you have the mirror in your inventory, save and quitting in the Dark World puts you on top of the pyramid.
Yeah, I forget. I know in the Game Boy Advance version there was another place you could start at in the Dark World, but I can't remember what it was.
Reaching back in my memory for this one, Dark Sanctuary maybe?
I want to say it was like maybe it was Turtle Rock. No, it wasn't. That was an extra flute point they added, I think. But yeah, I know they gave you the sort of menu that you get like between Sanctuary and Link's house and stuff in the Dark World, and it was referred to as the Pyramid of Power.
Oh, the lag frames. Ooh, a very clean Trinex from Dante as well. Especially on that last phase there, hitting the hammers really fast.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Is, you know, the better the player is, the less the Master Sword Tempered Sword difference really makes. You know, with in some of the Invitational League games, you know, you might see that playing a bigger role. You know, so they might fumble a little bit, but man, like if you get somebody who really knows how to use that hammer, it's almost as good as the Tempered Sword.
It is, and these runners are indeed what I would call good.
So yeah, P-Train isn't far behind. About 2 rooms and a Trinex fight, plus, you know, walking across the mountain there.
Yeah, I think we're going to see all 3 of our other runners in GT all at the same time here.
Yeah, if GFE and P-Train can play tight for the rest of the seed, they could close the gap and maybe clinch a second, third finish win for their team. We'll just have to see.
I think it's going to be, it could be closer than it seems, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looks as though Relkin and Dante are both kind of ahead. But it's, you know, we're going to have to see how long those pendants take.
Absolutely. I think we are within the realm of possibility of a Ganon fall making some difference here.
Yeah, GFE and P-Train are just neck and neck here.
They are notable as well that GFE keeping it neck and neck and still on that Master Sword. Going back to your point a minute ago, that sword difference just seems less important when you have runners of this caliber. And these two are showing it off well.
Yeah, losing a little bit of time here to the having to use the hammer strats there on the heads there. It's kind of unavoidable. It's the fastest way to do it without the sword upgrade.
No, absolutely. Master Sword takes just too many.
Oh, Relkin giving us our first view into Swamp Palace. I wonder what we're going to see in this wealth of checks in here. Okay, skipping the first one.
I say a wealth of checks, and I would expect Relkin to get exactly almost none of them.
I'd expect Relkin to pick up the boss item, and that's about it.
With the diver down, maybe they grab the 2 chests that are sunken.
Yeah,
right there. Maybe
there could be a sword, yeah.
But even that, I wouldn't blame him for walking right past those either. Or I wouldn't be surprised, I should say.
Okay, so here we see P-Train going right. So GFE is probably going to be the first to finish GT, because he's probably going to go left and find that key first.
I believe so, but it's going to be tight. P-Train going to find out there's nothing over on the right side pretty quick, and is going to be following right behind. GFE going to find out there's nothing really worthwhile in the Dark Magician room, and P-Train may skip that, which would even him right back out.
Yeah.
Relkin opening 1 extra chest even that we didn't expect on their trip through Swamp, but still not finding the sword they wanted.
And GFE going for the boomerang strats here. Having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, gotta be quicker than that.
That's not something you like to see when it's this tight.
Absolutely not. Minor little time losses like that are just a couple of seconds at all that could mean everything when it's this close.
And there they are, the little handshake again. They're high five. That's the one, not the handshake. Shaking hands would take too long.
Yeah, that's too many seconds. Like I just said, gotta high five and move on.
So this is actually going to be a kind of nice head-to-head comparison. We can see who's better at GT between GFE and P-Train.
Meanwhile, Dante looked like they were going to try and hover Moldorm 2, and Moldorm 2 said, "Nope, you're gonna fight me, or you're gonna go down to the basement."
Yeah, meanwhile, Relkin here going through Eastern Palace.
Yep, down to just 2 quick dungeons for them. Well, very nice triple from Dante.
Oh, those lines are so good.
Oh, managed to get it with a 3-2-1. Pretty much a perfect Aga 2 fight.
Actually, there. I think he actually had to get hit with both of those. Or no, it was 3-2-1. Yeah, you're right. It was only one that was needed. I can't math. Either way, like that second one would have hit him too. That's about the best Aga 2 fight I've seen.
Yeah, with those lineups and those shots that Aga 2 was taking, that was pretty much perfect. Question from chat. Yes, Relkin has already finished Aga 1.
Yeah, all Relkin has to do here is finish off the boss here of Eastern Palace. Already a little more than halfway there, I would say. Then do Misery Mire, and then all it is a save and quit. And drop down into the big pig.
Indeed. Meanwhile, all the 3 other runners need to do is, finish up GT on Sphere-finity side, but finish off Aga 1, go finish Swamp Palace, which is incredibly fast in go mode, and then they will save and quit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looking like all Relkin and Dante have to do here to secure the win is to just play tight and not drop too many frames.
I would agree. The Ganon fight will be important. Both of them needing to have a at least fairly clean Ganon fight, and they will hold on to this victory here. But Rando, anything can happen. Ganon does not like to play nice, especially on Master Sword. So a fall to Ganon, while detrimental to the team, is not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting to think that Sphere-finity could have flipped the tables entirely if they had just played a little less safe, taken the gamble on TR just, you know, a minute earlier. You know, it really could have changed a lot of things about how this is playing out right now.
Oh, absolutely. Or if Titan's Mitts here had been a little safer in their checks and done some more overworld before they went to TR. P-Train giving us a little check at what Moldorm 2 was hiding. Turns out it was the Shovel Disc Seed.
Hey, that could be important.
That could be the 4
could
sword.
Be that
right
last,
there,
yeah, it could be the last sword. Ooh, that was a slick hook speed there.
Yeah, practically making it all the way behind Aga 2 on that one. That's almost as far as I've seen anyone else make it.
No, P-Train not quite getting the nice lines. Still finish it off with the double as GFE begins the fight.
Still very clean, very nice from both runners on Sphere-finity side.
I would also like to point out P-Train was the second one to enter GT. And the second one to begin the climb. So I think we have conclusively proven here that P-Train is better at GT than GFE.
Well, hard to argue with them facts. All right, Dante is down to 1 dungeon remaining. Meanwhile, Relkin is very quickly making their way through Misery Mire.
Yeah, Relkin's got half a dungeon left. You know, now imagine being in this position, right? You know, finding the flippers and the ice rod there in Turtle Rock after wondering how long you should really put it off, and now you're here and you've got, you know, really 3 bosses or 4 bosses left between the two of you, and nobody's done yet.
Yeah, absolutely nerve-wracking when you start getting this close, and you know that those dones could start flooding in any second now.
Yeah, it especially, you know, the more seeds you play, you start to get a sense for how fast a seed could have been done. You know, after you know all the information, it's like, oh, yeah, this could have been done so much faster if my opponents did this.
You can't help it. You always assume that your opponents played absolutely perfectly and did just the absolute best routing possible.
Oh, geez, he almost took over P-Train there. P-Train falling down the pit.
Neck and neck, same room, same position as they watch the cutscene together. Meanwhile, Relkin has finished off Misery Mire. They have finished all of the dungeons and are headed down to fight the Big Pig.
Takes a Ganon hug there.
Yeah, got to be careful here. Low on health.
Is there a fairy? That's
I believe they do have a fairy. They grabbed one in GT, I think it was. Some very nice Canis Samaria strats here. Costs some frames, but gives you at least a couple extra spins.
Yeah, which is it's definitely worth it with the Master Sword. It's even more important in you know, seeds where you've got you know, less hearts, maybe still on green mail. Say if it was like hard item pool or something, it's having that consistency is definitely worth saving some frames.
Absolutely. Relkin already into phase 3 with silver arrows. Phase 4 is going to go super quickly. Doesn't get the torch glitch, so has to spend a few extra shots to light them, but this might be a triple.
No, it didn't need to be.
Didn't need it. Never mind. I didn't see the first shot, but that is the Big Pig down on Relkin's side. Get your GGs in chat as soon as he passes over this deceptively short bridge.
Yeah, and we see Dante just saving, quitting, dropping into the fight himself, and GFE and P-Train both, you know, going into Swamp Palace so close. In lockstep. That's actually kind of beautiful.
That's what co-op is all about, right there. Same screen,
like
same time.
Swimming.
Sphere-finity may not win this, but they get extra swag points for having that synchronized dungeon here.
Yeah, can you imagine if rather than if we change the league to not be a race-based league at all, but rather we now have judges that judge the style of the players.
There's always room for more modes in Rando. Be careful what you say there. You might give somebody an idea.
Oh, I live on giving people ideas. Just the last race I commentated, I suggested that we have procedurally generated lore for each randomized location. Like, why are the items where they are? Please explain this to us, random.
That would require reading, though, reading the lore, and we don't have time for that. We gotta go fast.
Well, there's always April Fools.
Or the festive seeds.
Yeah, I feel like the festive seeds have gone far beyond how something like that. That would be a bit tame for the festive seeds. They've been absolutely stunning every year for the past couple of years.
They have, and now that I think about it, we're drawing close to another festive season. Hint, hint. Ooh, Dante tries to get that that first quick shot off, doesn't get it though.
Yeah, unless he falls, it's not going to be enough to give Sphere-finity a foot in the door here. And there it is. There's the last hit. And Dante, being the second place finisher, and if you know, bridge fall notwithstanding, will seal this in for the Titans Mitts for their second victory here, denying the comeback.
Worth noting, Sphere-finity pretty much a Ganon fight behind when all was said and done.
And that's spooky close for a co-op seed.
Get your GGs in chat for Dante and the Titans Mitts taking game 2 from Sphere-finity.
And we are joined here in chat by the victors themselves, Relkin and Dante. GGs.
Hey, GG's.
So yeah, that was, I mean, thoughts on the seed. Let's just get this rolling.
So we had some mishaps, kind of like 25 minutes into the seed. I messed up a bunch in Hera. Dante messed up a bit in Pod, so we were feeling like we need to start taking some risk at some point. And I guess that for us was having me go to TR without Ice Rod or flips.
I would say that's really what put you in the position to win it, because as we all saw that it became evident very quickly that TR was in fact the correct play.
Yeah,
that
like,
was
the pod mishap. I wanted to go back because there were 2 items left. I knew there was something on Helma, and I knew there was something in the big chest. And then when we got Kane, I was like, "There's no way I can even like try to take a death." And I know where Lamp is. It's probably going to be faster to come back, even though it kind of sucks to have to do it. So that like we got the Kane or I got the Kane there and left, which I don't really think helped us. It may have hurt us a little bit. You know, I don't really know how that panned out with our routing, but yeah, it was weird.
I would definitely say it didn't hurt you too badly to leave Helma behind. It was pretty quick to come back to. Both of your opponents did full clear pod on their trip, but Helma not having anything progressive important, it didn't hold you back any. So.
But yeah, I was joking with Relkin, like during the credits and the 10-minute catch up that, you know, he had some mistakes Wednesday, and then I had a lot of mistakes tonight. So we just carried each other to the finish line a little bit, and luckily it worked out. Co-op is so stressful. It's so fun, but it's so stressful in a competitive environment.
Before, right?
That's exactly. That's what teamwork is all about.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've been joined by P-Train. GG's. Very close game.
Appreciate it. Didn't feel that way based off the finish times.
It probably didn't, but trust us from the booth here, it was really close. We weren't able to say definitively who was in the lead until the last 5-6 minutes or so, definitively, because of who needed to finish what dungeons and so on. So it was quite close. GG's.
Appreciate it. We chose a horrible seed to play against Ice Rod and Turtle Rock. Just because the way the routing worked out, like even doing ice, we were talking about Pyramid Ledge and stuff like that, and I was like, well, if I had Ice Rod, I would just rush to Rock. But we've already done like so much overworld stuff. I kind of felt a little obligated to kind of commit to some of those overworld checks. We had already gone like pretty overworld heavy at that point, so like we just kind of had a discussion around the time I was in ice and GFE was clearing pod. It's like at this point I think we're kind of committed to playing against Ice Rod and Turtle Rock, and then the moment we found both the Ice Rod and flippers in Crystal Roller, like we pretty much there we knew we had lost.
Yeah, we were having discussions in the booth here about that very same thing, and that is what kind of decided the race. Your opponents deciding to forego some of those overworld checks and rush TR, and you guys deciding to check the overworld instead. From the booth here, we expected one of the items at least to be in TR, but both of them coming up side by side, that was a surprise even for us. Was, yeah, as you say, pretty much the worst seed you could get for that strategy of avoiding TR until you had Ice Rod.
Yeah, other than that though, it felt good. Getting all the items in Kakariko were kind of weird. Both GFE and I kind of had our moments where it's like, whoa, Hype Cave is empty. And for me, I was like, dang, like both Paradox and Hookshot Cave are dead. But then I realized, I'm like, we actually did get like a ton of items in the light and dark village area. So it kind of stands to reason that, you're going to have this big drought where you're looking for just a handful of items. But at least having all of that, it kind of made routing the seed very interesting. Because, everybody's finding items on all ends of the map, and you have to figure out, what order you're going to do things. I had Lamp, which GFE kind of wanted. GFE had Blue Mail, which I kind of wanted before going into Ice, but ultimately just figured I'd do it anyways. And yeah, just the order we found the items just didn't really work out for this particular seed. And of course, just the decision to put off Turtle Rock, that was regardless of the items we found, that strategy was just a losing win in this seed. So that's unfortunate, but it happens. There's another seed in which that's the God route.
Hey, absolutely.
GG's, welcome, Dante.
Yo, GG, guys.
Hey, GGFE.
Oh, man. Yeah, P-Train already pretty much said it all. I think one of the thing that hurt us is I got those early mitts, but did not capitalize on them. Put off my shed on him and I should have, and then didn't really have equipment that really I wanted to go into Ice Palace, which would have been the play. And I don't know, I had some mental errors. Like I just right before this did the SG Live qualifier, which I won't spoil anything, but yeah, good seed. But yeah, that messed me up. I took Smith for a little longer trip than he deserved, and I'm still not sure why my hula hand failed the first time. I don't know what happened there. But I hope everybody enjoyed seeing the fairy there. Fairy drop down. Just playing a little entrance.
Oh yeah, you didn't stop for a chat, didn't stop for the cup of tea, but it was nice to say hello.
Yeah, huge GGs to these guys. Like I said Wednesday, I always enjoy playing, one of the teams from season 1. And we got to play them in season 1, and we haven't been able to play them since. And it's always super fun going up against these guys, and I really enjoyed it. But I hope you guys have best of luck going forward with the season. Hoping we get to meet up again in playoffs at some point. It should be a whole lot of fun.
I need that. We need that 1v1 rematch, Dante. You got to get back at me.
Yeah, I know. I gotta, I'm 0-1 against GFE in league, and Relkin had to carry me on this one, so I can't count this one. So, look at my collection; it's abysmal. Like Relkin just did all the heavy lifting.
GFE was having a blast, because usually when we do co-op seeds, for whatever reason, wherever GFE goes, like progression's never there. But GFE did the Village of Outcasts, so of course he's like, oh, I found mitts, I found cape, I found flute, I found a bottle, oh, I found boots. And I'm like, man, you're just living on Cloud9 over there. Meanwhile, I'm doing escape.
That reminds me, I love how I find boots after getting the bottle off Stumpy, which we train skip. He's just rescuing old man, so I tell him there's boots, and instead of going on up to Spec Rock, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get those now, because he could just flute back. And then there was a bottle just sitting in Spec Rock.
Yep, I got that bottle. That was how I got boots for us.
The timing didn't work out too well for us there. But no, P-Train's right. I think our last practice seed we did, I found literally 0 progression. We're talking I didn't even find a sword first. I found nothing. I just had to follow P-Train everywhere.
Sometimes
it be like that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But
Rando do rando things.
Well, thank you guys for commentating and tracking. I do appreciate that. And yeah, GG's again. We'll see you guys, I guess, for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Again, shout outs to Yoinker's Boy and Adalor on tracking, and of course to I'm blanking out on a Diesel Pilot with the restream.